Is the co-owner and president, CEO of Richmond Brothers, Matt Curfman. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Bart.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Matt mentioned to us before the show that he had time for a run before he came on the show today.
A lunchtime run.
Awesome.
I figure I'll have some calorie deficit instead of actually eating lunch.
So you didn't eat. You don't eat as you run.
No, but I actually skipped that today. I'll probably eat something after our show today.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. I know you're gearing up for Saturday. You're one of the sponsors of Art, Beer, and Wine.
Yeah, we are happily involved with the Art, Beer, and Wine Festival over at Ella Sharp, and I was just sharing with you on the break that some of our good friends at the Zero Bar and Lounge are going to be there as well, which is kind of exciting, something a little different than what you'd have traditionally expect at a beer and wine festival.
They have drinks which they emphasize are not mocktails.
Yep.
And mocktails are kind of these cheesy, fruity, sweet drinks that are available at some places instead of an alcoholic drink. But what they do at Zero Bar, have you had some of their drinks?
We actually had them come host at our Christmas party in December at our office, and they had 3 specialty drinks that they had made like for the season. It was really fun. People really enjoyed it.
Yeah, they're so unique. I've had them there at their grand opening downtown. Then they had a display at Penn Chiropractic for their anniversary. Yeah, so check them out. They'll be all over. They'll be at Art, Beer, and Wine, and you'll see Richmond Brothers at ABW as well. Well, the whole country knows about debt ceiling. We know about it. Most of us don't know what it is or what the impact is on everyday life.
Sure.
But you do.
Well, maybe. We'll see. So the good news is, of course, the debt ceiling has been raised. I don't know if that's good news or it's just news. Yesterday I did a Matt's Minutes video, and Parker, my golden doodle, was sitting in the background, and he was all sleepy and dreary-eyed. I think he had the same sentiment that we all have about the debt ceiling. He wasn't very excited, but it's the best way you can think about it on an individual basis is if you and your family sat around and you were looking at your budget and you said, hey, it looks like we're going to spend more than we make this year. And your solution to that was, well, which credit card do we want to go expand the limit on so that we can just keep spending at our same level? So that's why I hesitate when I say good news. The good news is that in raising the debt ceiling for now, we avoid some more catastrophe scenarios in the financial world, and Medicare beneficiaries, Social Security beneficiaries. Could the Treasury actually fund those checks that are due out the next month if they didn't raise that debt ceiling? So there was some real world risks, and it's, you know, every time a government entity passes something like this, there's not, it's not always great for everyone, because in doing this they cut certain programs and they limited spending, and so it depends on who you are and where you are in the economy.
And it really it caused panic. It caused panic among investors, savers, citizens, institutions.
Sure.
Was it responsible for Congress to let, and for both the administration and Congress to get to the point where we're at the last? It was
pretty close to the last minute.
Last minute.
I would say that if I were comparing that to an individual family sitting down, I would say no, that doesn't feel very responsible, and it feels very stressful, high risk.
So what got us to that? Is there anything particular that we've had that happen? The Ukraine war, the pandemic, the rising interest rates, inflation.
Probably all of those things. What you find is, back when interest rates had been historically low, going back to, the 2007 all the way up until the last year, with rates being really low. If you think about mortgage rates for a comparison, if you're a consumer, a year ago, give or take, you could get a 30-year mortgage with a decent credit score for probably 3%. and now they're 6 or 6.5.
Yeah.
So as rates go up, just life gets more expensive, right? And
Right.
so payments cost more. So that was probably a crediting factor in some of that. But at the same, the most simplistic level is we spend more than we make.
So in 103 weeks, we will be back in this situation again.
I hadn't done the math, but basically after the presidential election in 2024, I think it goes through January of 2025 was my most recent reading of the bill.
All right, so for investors, you brought some graphs and charts and slides. Sure. What would you call us are we in a bear market or a bull market?
We're not in a bear market technically. I wouldn't say we're in a bull market technically either, but I think if you look at the last 5 years, go back to the end of 2018, then skip ahead to 2020 during the early days of the pandemic, and then 2022, if you're an investor, and we work with a lot of pre-retirees and retirees who largely depend on their portfolio to help supplement income streams like Social Security. And so it's a scary ride, and we talk about roller coasters, and what do you really want to feel and experience in your portfolio? Well, we all want no risk, and we just want everything to grow in a straight line. And that doesn't really exist out there if you actually have a truly balanced portfolio. So one of the things that is often overlooked in retirement is we have this chart here, the gain needed to recover when you have a portfolio loss. So let's look at the portfolio loss and go to it says minus 30%. So if you had an investment or an index or a market that lost 30%, and then the next year you made 30%, you're not even at break even. So if it drops 30, you need 43% the next year. So if you had 100 grand, it dropped to 70,000, you now need a 43% return to get it back to 100. Now, where the problem comes in is if you're retired, let's say on that same pot of money, you also needed to take 5 or 10 grand out, and you were down 33%. You can't have too many years like that. So it gets really scary. And so if you're about to go into retirement or you're in the early years of retirement, it's really important to understand these concepts and make sure you feel comfortable with your plan, that you have some safety nets in place that might not be just owning and buying stocks and bonds and mutual funds, because last year stocks and bonds together had pretty negative returns for the first time in several decades. So last year was a very abnormal year, and it gets scary.
And for people closer to retirement or it's just starting retirement, the end of that roller coaster, there's no more tracks left. And you are watching that like a hawk. And as you say, you take 5,000, 10,000 out. In reality, the impact is a lot more. On
top of an already negative return or loss year. So it becomes challenging if you don't have some safe assets to fall back on.
Just your example of the difference between a 30% portfolio loss and the 43% gain needed to recover is an example to me that a layperson needs some help. Yeah. So that's what you're here for.
Yep, that's basically what we do in our firm, and especially when you have to make those decisions where a lot of times when you're still working, you may not like if the market's down because you'll have a negative return in a year, but most people who are working depend on their paycheck to live. When you're retired, you don't have that paycheck coming in, and so you need to rely on these assets, usually for part of your income. And so it's a little different than when you're working and you're saving into a work plan, a 401k, an IRA, a Roth. And so just kind of being aware of that.
So at some point, the longer that you are an investor, the longer that you're a saver, the chances are you're going to have some sort of a investment recovery plan, and you guys can map something like that out.
Yeah, and I think what Karen had responded to was an email we sent, and it was kind of the phrase of having your own personal playbook. So how do we come back from these things? And for context, we talk about these moves, and someone says, oh, the market doesn't generally lose 30%. Well, last year the NASDAQ lost 33. The S&P dropped about 20, and the average corporate bond dropped about 15. So these are very recent. And in 5 years, we've had now 3 bear markets, which is a 20% drop or more. Prior to 2018, there was 1 bear market every 5 to 7 years in all of market history.
Wow. So maybe we've used up the bear markets for the next 10 years?
That would be my hope. But if we're wrong and that is the new norm, how do you plan for that, and how do you come up with what I've termed, or what we've termed, smoother ride options?
Well, one thing that's predictable is the unpredictability. And that's where you have some help, and you've got an event coming up.
Yeah, yep. So we already talked about the Art, Beer, and Wine as a local event. We're going to host an educational event out at Jackson College on Thursday, June 22nd at 6:30 in the evening. And on your screen, or if you're watching this on your phone or tablet or computer, there's a website registration, and I do have to say this for compliance purposes, but the smoother ride options are just investment strategies that we can use. And in particular, we're having the CEO of the founder of some strategies that we use come up from Dayton and give a presentation to talk to clients and people in our community. So you don't have to be an existing client, you can be. And so our goal is to continue to provide education out to the community. And in this specific case, you'll see on the website, generally speaking, you'd have to have $25,000 is their minimum in order to make their structure work. So you'll see that when you register, so just so there's nothing scary about that. Most people, as they transition to retirement, maybe in 401ks or pensions or other IRAs, typically will find that they have those assets. You don't have to have them readily available.
And if you have those assets in some sort of stock or securities at some other place,
Sure.
either a firm or with an individual, you can help move that into a new.
Certainly, and I would say more than anything, we can just, I guess we could be a second opinion. You know, we could help you look at things free of charge, schedule a phone, a Zoom, or an in-person, and just talk through that specifically. Because sometimes in public formats or in group settings, we don't want to ask very personal questions about our own situation and let the whole audience know. So we wanted to put that out there for the community, and of course for our clients, get first dibs at it until the room fills up. But if you're interested, check out our website.
And here's how you get a hold of Matt, or visit the website, or sign up. Do you want people to sign up for the Smoother Ride?
Yep, that would be great if you just signed up, and that way we have an accurate list for our compliance purposes of who will be attending. And again, we've called it the Smoother Ride Social, and the link is right on our website. And Smoother Ride is, can we avoid some of these extreme bear markets if this environment continues? And this may be an option for people to consider is all.
Right. So like the baby roller coaster instead of the blue streak.
Baby roller coasters for baby boomers.
All right. Well, thanks. And we'll see you Saturday at Art, Beer, and Wine.
It'll be a great event to be part of.
Yeah. Art, Beer, and Wine being sponsored in part by Richmond Brothers. Thanks to co-owner and CEO Matt Curfman.
Thanks, Bart.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. A little bit later on, we'll talk about more at Alisher Museum.